The DataFlex 20 is still in beta. What are your experience so far? Is it nice working with the new
Yeah.
features and?
Um, I love the dark mode.
Okay, great. Hi and welcome to another conversation. And today we have Albin Wisén back from Prosmart, and in this video he's going to talk more about migration to DataFlex 20. And there's a lot of things to unpack there, I think. So, Albin, where did this project start? When did you start to look at the migration? And you're not done yet, we should say. So
No,
it's
no,
still in.
we're not done. We got a
No,
lot of work left.
you have to
Uh,
come back later and tell us the end of the story. But so
yeah,
far,
we started around a year ago, something like that. When we started, we used the 19.1 warning system that gave us somewhere around 10 to 15,000 warnings, I think. Yeah. We got our system is huge. We got, just to let you know how it is at our house, we had got somewhere around 800 database tables, 1,000 views.
Oof.
Yeah, in the Windows system.
Yeah.
We also got our web system that is growing every day. We got a mobile version that is pretty big right now
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
And we also got a terminal web application that is pretty
Terminal web
much,
application.
yeah. It's like a mobile application, but it's been developed so that a lot of people can use it without logging in.
Okay.
And every time, let's say you're in the floor at an industrial company, and you got a lot of machines and people walking around working on the machines, and you got, let's say you got a iPad or you got a computer or something like that standing on the floor. So you got 10 to 15 people working on these machines, and every time they do something, they need to tell the system what they are doing.
Yeah.
So, and everybody's sharing the same iPad or computer or whatever. So they walk up to the computer, enter their personal ID to the application, no password or anything, just enter their ID, and the application knows who they are and what they were doing. So now the user can tell the system what he's doing right now, or if he's finished or
So
whatever.
it's some kind of time tracking or
Time tracking, work tracking.
yeah.
They're working with production orders, so they need to tell the system if an order is ready or an operation on the production order is finished or something like that. So the system can count off the materials, yeah, and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
it's a
we
huge
got
system.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of application connected to it. So we got 10 to 15,000 warnings at first compile with the warning system. Now we're down to 100 or something like that.
And those warnings, are they kind of indications that the new version of DataFlex will change in some way, so you need to adjust the code, or it
I
sounds
think
kind of.
the warnings that we have left is connected to external libraries right now.
Okay.
So these libraries are going to be either exchanged or rebuilt.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but then when the first alpha of DataFlex 20 came out, we actually made a compile with 64 bits and Unicode, and we had 600 or 700 errors.
Okay.
Mostly we were moving pointers to strings, because in this system we also have a lot of integrations into other systems. We have got integrations into a lot of economy systems, bankings, stuff like that. So everywhere where we have an integration, either through a REST API or let's say we're creating a CSV file or XML file or something like that. Today, when we're in OEM, we need to convert the data from OEM to UTF-8 before we are creating the XML file or whatever, or making the REST call. And everywhere where we are converting from OEM to UTF-8, mostly we move pointers to strings, and that's not allowed anymore.
Okay.
So that's something we need to change.
Yeah.
Or actually, we need to remove it.
Yeah.
Because if we remove it, it's gonna work. Because the new DataFlex will be in UTF-8. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is not allowed. You cannot use it anymore, or is it just the preferred way to not use it?
No, you need to use there's a function now called move pointer to string.
Okay.
So you need to use the function, I think, but I haven't looked into it.
No, you
a lot,
basically don't have to, because
no, I just need to remove the code. So
yeah, that's at least not a complicated issue. You just need to go through a lot of code and remove some old pointer.
Yeah, and
I
also know that I mean, we have, as I said, we have 1,000 views in our Windows system. Let's say we have half of those views, we are collecting the data with SQL. And everywhere where we are collecting the data with SQL, we are getting in the data from the SQL database that's in ANSI today. And everywhere we are converting the data from ANSI to OEM. So this code need to be removed too, because we can't convert the data from ANSI to OEM. We need to convert the data from ANSI to UTF-8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to update those as well.
Yeah. So we got some work ahead.
But it still sounds like a fairly unified change. So you could more or less do a search and replace in the entire system and kind of update it. But you want to go through to make sure that everything is working properly, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. We also saw that we had, when we first started using the warning system, we saw that we had a lot of old code that we didn't know that we had. We were using trim without using the actual function trim.
Okay.
Just the trim variable.
May I ask, how old is the system? So when did it start? In what version of DataFlex did you start develop the system?
Yeah, the system actually started with the DataFlex 3.2 or something like that.
That's where I started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I weren't around then.
No, and I was actually working on an old system that was still alive a few years back.
Yeah.
So in 3.2, so I've seen the code.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then when Visual DataFlex came out, they converted it to Visual DataFlex, and around 2005 or something like that, the owners who own Prosmart right now bought it from the old owners, and today we have Prosmart is using 19.1 and SQL databases, and around next year we hope to have DataFlex 20 with it.
Okay. But
yeah.
So it sounds great to get kind of clean out all the old code and getting everything up to speed and fresh.
Yeah, it is. As I said, we found a lot of old code. That's basically because we have around 1,000 views, and most of the views we don't even know they exist. No. Until our customers calls in and say, "Hey, there's something wrong here." Yeah. So yeah, but now we had to go through all the views and look at the code, and we found a lot of old code. Like trim, we used append without the function append. But mostly of these changes, like trim and append, we could change like automatically with the replace commands. So yeah,
you're just gonna find these kind of big things that are all over the code and then replace them all, and then dive deeper into more details.
Yeah, but I think that the biggest challenge that we have is actually going through all the. We use a lot of external functions called ActiveX components, C#, C++ code libraries, stuff like that. So we need to go through all of that and see that we are not converting anything in the wrong data type.
Yeah, so you need to test every single part of the system to make sure that it's still working and
yeah, and that is something that if we don't actually test it, it could bite us in the runtime because the compiler might not pick it up.
No. And it's also, if you have OCX components or integrations with software that is not 64-bit, then you will also have issues.
Yeah,
that will bite you.
I know that we have a couple of code libraries or ActiveX components that it's not 64 bits. But we will have to either, if they exist in 64 bits, we need to change them, or we need to replace them with something else. So I think that will be the biggest challenge.
Okay.
I think
finding options for alternatives for the external
and actually testing everything.
Yeah, that's one of the most time-consuming efforts in development, I think.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
So that is more or less what you have ahead of you, testing different libraries and making sure that everything is working.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we decided to just bring the system up to DataFlex 20. And when we have it working in DataFlex 20 using 64 bits, and we can test it and see that everything is working, then we can look at bringing the SQL database into Unicode, changing the data types in the SQL database.
Okay.
So we will do it in 2 steps.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I've done similar things myself as well, and kind of making sure the code works first, and then care of the database later. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because it will be a hassle to do everything at once.
Yeah.
Better live a few months with some migrating functions. That's good enough.
Yep.
Okay, but
yes,
it sounds like you have some journey ahead of you still before you're finally at the end point of this.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we come a long way, but we got a.
But the DataFlex 20 is still in beta. What are your experience so far? Is it nice working with the new features and?
I love the dark mode.
Okay, great.
I mean, I work in in Visual Studio, and I'm used to having the dark mode in Visual Studio, so the dark mode is very welcome in DataFlex. I love it. Also like the new start screen in DataFlex 20. It looks good. But it feels good working in DataFlex 20. Got a couple of new functions and procedures and also classes and controls in the web. I like to see web tag form. We will use that, I think. So, it looks and feels good.
Yeah. Well, then I think we are at the end of this video as well. So thank you for joining me and in this casual conversation, and hope to see you sometime in the future where we can talk more about how things went and perhaps other things.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Have a nice day. And
you do.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Yep. Bye.